What's up, guys? I finally got around to having some time to film this video, and I am going to be answering all these questions, doing the drawing for the winner of this contest, drinking a beer, shooting the breeze, all that kind of nonsense. So, like I said in the last video, I really do appreciate you guys dearly for all of the support over the years, and 2,000 subscribers is absolute insanity as far as I'm concerned. So I have everything in this hat here, and I am just going to pull it right off the bat so none of y'all have to sit around and wait. I got one here. Oh, Roger. All right, I know where to get a hold of you, so I will shoot you a message on Instagram more than likely. So Roger, congratulations, Kavorik. I still don't know how to say your last name, buddy. Sorry, but congratulations. I will have a package coming your way with some personalized things. Hopefully, no duplicates. So since we got that out of the way, we're drinking a good beer. We have Delirium Nocturne, the dark side of Delirium. This is a dark Belgium. Which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I absolutely love this brewery, and I love every beer I've ever had from them. I typically buy the regular one, but this was on a clearance rack, and this beer always pours so hard. But yeah, so I'm just going to continue pouring this and start answering questions because it is a lot. So, first one I got here is going to be Exodus Toxic Waltz. He's got a handful of questions here for me. He says, congratulations, bro. I appreciate you. What's your favorite band shirt? I would probably have to say my white Bolt Thrower logo t-shirt. It's just the regular Bolt Thrower logo. And it is my favorite because it is the t-shirt I got married in underneath my suit. Do I prefer long, short, or sleeveless shirts? So my wife has gradually been civilizing me as a human being since we've been married. So I'm sure you've noticed that the sleeves on my t-shirts tend to stay on these days, though I would exclusively wear sleeveless for a long time. So I would probably say long sleeve because I wear short as a utilitarian thing. But long sleeves always are way, way cooler, man. You get the cool friggin' long sleeves with the stuff down the sides and all that kind of stuff. Oh man, that's banging. Absolutely banging. Where can I find your music? So, all of my stuff is going to be on Apple Music, Spotify, literally every streaming platform. So my folk bluegrass country band is on there. It's just Tony John. Our most recent record's called Antlers in the Snow. Put it out back in December. It's been doing pretty well. We've been keeping busy, so very thankful to anybody who cares to listen to it. And my old band Apotheosis, our album is also on Spotify. Cursed Vengeful Eternity is the EP. Apotheosis, the band that I am in, Triguna, or I am part of, sort of. I don't understand. I don't know exactly, but I played on the Candied Lemons EP from 2019, and that is also on Spotify. And all of the physical formats, the Apotheosis CDs are built virtually unavailable. I don't have many left, and they might be somewhere in my house if I do. And Tony John stuff is all going to be you could just order them through me directly if you hit us up on Instagram. Tony John Music, not on Bandcamp or anything anymore. I do have it, but I don't use Bandcamp. What's your favorite beer? So my favorite beer of all time is Warka Strong, which is a Polish amber lager. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's an easy drink all the time. But my style lately has been Belgiums like this. And look at that friggin' head and that head maintenance. These guys really know how to brew beer. Nostrovia. Forgot to say it. I'm rusty, y'all. Sorry. But yeah, so Warka Strong is my favorite, but style-wise, I'm mostly a Belgian importer guy, as far as my preferred stuff goes. But I also do like pretty much all styles of beer. But yeah, Warka Strong. And top album so far this year. So I have not knowingly listened to a single new metal record this entire year, which is wholly unlike me. I just haven't, man. I just haven't been in the mood. I haven't felt like trying to find new stuff. When I find new stuff, I stumble upon it. Since my last collection update, this is all I've gotten as far as metal stuff goes. So, I don't know. I just, you go through phases. Sometimes you're in money saver mode. Sometimes you're just like, oh, well, I'm just going to buy 30 CDs in a day. It's like that sometimes, and I have more than enough to listen to, so I just haven't been checking out new stuff. But the only new album that I like really know for a fact that I've loved from this year so far is the new Dead South album. They're like a folk punk-ish bluegrass band somewhere in that general vicinity from Saskatchewan, Canada. But yeah, that'd be so far the album that I've probably listened to the most this whole year, which is not even a metal record. Next, thank you again, Exodus Toxic Waltz, I appreciate you. Next is Stefan, I don't know how to say your last name, Riascos, maybe, close-ish, probably not, whatever. He says, hey man, I always watch your videos, congratulations, I really do appreciate it, Stefan, thank you so much. First question I have here is, what type of physical format do you love, and what format do you hate? So, I'm a CD guy mostly. You guys know that's my favorite, as you could tell by this monstrosity behind me. But my least favorite thing on physical format is like a digipack or like a slip sleeve CD. You know, it's just a sleeve with a CD that slips in and out. But specifically like cheap, crappy digipacks with like a plastic jacket inside or a plastic disc tray inside. Sorry, this beer's making me burp. But I would say that is like my least favorite thing in physical formats is those absolutely junk cheap digipacks. But regular jewel case CDs are amazing. I really love DVD case CDs, and I also really like A5 digipacks, which seems contradictory compared to what I said previously, but the A5 is just always quality. Nobody's cheaping out on an A5 digipack because they're a lot of money to press as far as I would imagine. Number 2, why you started to collect music on physical format. So my buddy got into record collecting before me, and this was in high school, early high school. I don't even know if I was old enough to drive yet, but I went to the flea market with my parents trying to find a birthday gift for him, and I picked him up a couple just LPs. I think I got him a Lynyrd Skynyrd LP and a Johnny Cash LP. And I was like, wow, these are really cool, like looking at it and stuff like that. And I picked up my first LP there ever as well. Just kind of inspired from that. And he would have like a CD collection. He would buy CDs, so he had legal use for them to make our skateboarding videos. He could, take the song off the CD and put it to us skateboarding when we were kids. He would make videos. There's actually some on YouTube here, and they're really bad. I'm really bad at that age. I'm still not very good. I haven't skated much lately, but it nonetheless is a memory from the past, and that's kind of where it all started, was skateboarding and buying CDs from that and feeling inspired and just really liking having something in my hand. I'm a very hands-on kind of person when it comes to learning, as well as just enjoying things in general. Like, I'd rather read a paperback book than something on my phone. I lose interest really fast if it's not like a real thing in my hands. I don't know. So number 3, what is your favorite way to get merch? Obviously my favorite is probably to purchase it at a show or a gig of sorts, but my favorite probably is a mix of that. When like a distro has a booth at a gig, say Metal Threat Fest from last year, I bought a ton of stuff, and it was really awesome to be able to hit all these distros while I was there. That was a whole lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I would say that distro booths at shows. What merch do you have signed? Oh man, dude, I have a ton of signed stuff. I have Cyanide stuff signed, Panopticon stuff signed. I have some like more. I have things that aren't metal that are signed too. Like I have a Clancy Brothers LP signed by all of them and Tommy Makem. I have a poster, a Marty Robbins poster signed by Marty Robbins, hung up in my living room here. But as far as metal goes, I have a ton of stuff, man. I've gotten so much stuff signed, all of the stuff from Begotten, Troglodyte, there's tons of it. There's tons of that stuff up there. But yeah, And then I have like clothes signed. Like I have a vest that's signed by Acid Witch, and I have a different vest that's signed by Jungle Rot and like I think Whitechapel. I just generally like signatures. I think they're really cool. I don't know. I used to not think I was a signature guy, but apparently I am. And 5, what is the most cheap and the most valuable item on your metal collection? Oh man, dude. I'd have to look on Discogs in particular, but I'm sure I have like local band stuff that's not even on Discogs, let alone have ever sold on Discogs, like Triguna, the band that I sort of am in, and then like local bands like Discarnate and stuff like that. That's probably the cheaper end, and then the more expensive stuff I would probably say is my older pressings of certain things. Like I have a combat pressing of Don't Break the Oath from like 84. That's a bit of more high dollar item. I have some Vampiric Blood LPs, which are, for whatever reason, very expensive. Stuff like that. I would probably say it's more on the LP side of things. But I have some other things that are like abnormally expensive on Discogs because I presume they were signed, you know, like not Finster Force, like Sabbath stuff, you know. Just things that are absolutely disproportionate outliers on Discogs. He says stay metal, and then additional collection. Additional question, I'm reading ahead of myself. Do you collect zines? Mine is Stahl fanzine. So if you are interested or on more info, let me know. I don't really collect zines, but if you have like a digital way of getting hold of it, I would definitely flip through to something on my phone, because I really just don't collect them. I would definitely flick through it because I'm not familiar with it. You know, the zines are a little bit past my age group. I guess older Gen Z or a young millennial. I'm in that like gray late 90s era of when I was born. So it just kind of missed me a little bit, and I got into metal, and everything was all like YouTube. YouTube is the thing that got people into music in my generation. But I would definitely be interested in checking that out. I might check that out later as well. So thank you, Stefan. Next, Nevermore Rules. You are always around, and I appreciate you greatly. He said, glad you're back. I was wondering where you were. Yeah, I disappeared for a bit. Sorry. He said, what's your opinion on the Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath? Banging. Dude, Tear is an amazing, amazing, amazing album. I think it's comparably good to maybe... I think it's a better album than Technical Ecstasy, maybe. Better than Never Say Die. I would put it almost on par with Mob Rules in Heaven and Hell. Almost. I would say it's better than Dehumanizer. Almost, maybe a little bit below those Dio era records, the 2 classic Dio albums. Maybe in the same space as Born Again in my chronology of Sabbath records, because Born Again is also an amazing record. So I have a very high opinion of it. I love it every time I hear it. Some of it's a little boring. He's kind of at the mercy as to what Tony writes and Geezer writes. But great stuff as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate you, Nevermore Rules. Next, Nicholas Fernandez. All right, so I'm going to read this all out. I'm glad that you're back, my brother. It's good to see some awesome videos and do that thing. Skateboard is freaking awesome. And I want to give you my 5 questions instead of doing it like one by one. And first question is, do you think Judas Priest can do a cover album? And he says, I believe they can, because Rob Halford still has the high-pitched vocals and could still do a great cover. I think you're right. I think they could do a really cool cover album of stuff from like their era, since they're the older generation of metal. I mean, starting in the 70s, they're like the same era as Motorhead, right after the first wave of like proto to early metal. So they definitely could have some really eclectic influence and some really interesting covers that they could really Judas Priest up, if you get what I mean by that. I think that'd be really cool. I would be interested in it. I would say I've never been particularly disappointed with a Rob Halford era Priest album. And question number 2, if you had to pick out any festival to go to for the rest of your life, what would it be? That's tough, man. I would probably really enjoy something like Brutal Assault or Grass Pop. Something more in the Slavic countries, just because I would love to see the Slavic region, which is where my family's from. And I think I would go to one of those. Maybe Brutal Assault I would probably put it at. So let's see. Question number 3 is, what's your top 5 favorite black metal bands of all time? That's tough, dude. That's really tough. As far as like my favorite ones of all time, I would probably have to say Agalloch, Summoning, Panopticon, from the Norwegian bands. Probably the Burzum Material, and maybe either probably Enslaved, maybe, or Immortal. It's kind of hard. It's a little hard to differentiate with them, but I'd probably say those are my favorite bands in the black metal genre. And then question number 4 is, what is your favorite country singer, and who got you to listen to country music? He said I got him into country music. I appreciate that. I'm here to spread the word on that. My favorite songwriter of all time is technically a folk artist, and it's Townes Van Zandt. So I would say my favorite country singer would be Hank Williams Sr. He has written every country standard that you could possibly think of. And, not everyone, you get what I mean. But him and Willie Nelson and Roger Miller, those are like my 3 favorites. I would say probably Willie's a huge part of me liking the music that I do. I got into country really early on. I remember being like a little kid, and my brother's a lot older than me, and he would drive me to the bus stop, and we'd listen to like Hank Jr. CDs and like Johnny Cash and like some less exciting stuff like Kenny Chesney and things like that. But the Hank Jr. was a big thing for me as a kid. I actually still have the CD, and I think I have the cassette that was in my brother's glove box or whatever that he always kept in there. And the question number 5 is, if you ever had the chance to sing with one of your favorite bands, who would it be? That would be wild. Most of them aren't around anymore, but like singing with like the classic Skynyrd lineup would have been wild, because I learned how to sing doing a Lynyrd Skynyrd cover band in high school with a teacher whose favorite band ever was Lynyrd Skynyrd. So I would probably say that as far as like singing. If I ever wanted to like front a metal band is what I'd like to do. If I got back into doing a lot of that, I would love to just be a front man in like a really nasty, groovy, maybe brutal-ish death metal band, or something like that. I just think that would be a lot of fun. Something you could run around and jump up and down to, So I appreciate you, dude. He wants me to give him a shout out, so I will do so. He has a new band called Wolfghoul coming out, and they started recording their first demo. So definitely check out Wolfghoul when they drop their release. Thank you again, Nicholas. You are awesome. Next, the Count of the Evening Face. Alright, he says, hey man, glad to see you making videos again. Been watching your content for the past few years, and it's some of my favorite on YouTube. I really do appreciate that. That's wild to think that people watch me sit here and babble about whatever nonsense comes to my mind. So I really do appreciate you, Australia. Anyway, his first question is, what's your favorite metal band shirt? I said my Bolt Thrower shirt initially. That's probably my actual favorite. But beyond that, I really like I really like my Caladan Brood Echoes of Battle long sleeve t-shirt quite a bit. It's really cool. I wear it pretty sparingly because I don't want to wear it out. It has like glittery gold on it, which I have mixed emotions about glitter on a shirt. It gets everywhere, and it's kind of weird, but it's a very, very cool shirt. I really like that one a lot. I also really like my Opeth Orchid long sleeve. Those are probably a couple of my other favorites. Number 2 is the weirdest death metal album in your collection. Man, dude, that is a tough one. I would probably say the weirdest one, like musically speaking, is my buddy's band Traguna that I'm sort of in. Before I was in there, they were really out there. They have an album called Gratifying Severed Hearts, and it's a weird mix of like Dillinger Escape Plan and like the new era of techie death metal with a lot of jazz influence. So it's really chaotic, and then there's just random stoner metal parts in the midst of everything. It's a wild band with a really weird progression, and it makes perfect sense. The main guy in the band, Jeremy, is one of my best friends. He's also in my folk band. And it's just, it makes perfect sense if you know Jeremy. But it's very, very interesting. I would probably say that is the weirdest death metal album in my collection. Number 3 is, are you a fan of any goth or industrial bands? I have a particular disdain towards industrial music. In general, the closest I come to it is like White Zombie, and that's mostly just out of nostalgia of like one of my brothers was really into Rob Zombie and White Zombie when I was younger. And you know, like new metal, he was coming of age when that stuff was all coming out. So he grew up with a lot of that, and then like as me being a kid around him, I heard quite a bit of that. Goth, a little bit, not a ton. I like some Sisters of Mercy stuff. Fields of the Nephilim is cool. What else? You know, some of your basic goth bands, Typo Negative. I like some of the gothy Death Doom and gothy melodic stuff, Tristania and things like that. That kind of like singing has been a real an eyebrow raiser for me. I think it's a weird peculiarity within the metal scene. So I could say I like goth a lot more than I like industrial, but I don't know a ton of it. Who wears the best corpse paint in your opinion is question 4. That's tough. I don't really know who has the coolest corpse paint. I tend to like the really chaotic ones. It's all like, you know, the white paint with like the random black lines. I don't exactly remember who it is that has that. Oh man, dude, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I can picture it, and it makes absolutely no difference because I'm just gonna say, you know, long blonde hair and that kind of corpse paint. And the dude's usually shirtless, and he has it on his whole body too. If you guys know who I'm talking about, put it in the comments because I can't remember who it is, but I think that's pretty sick, corpse paint. Number 5 is my favorite black metal vocalist. That's rough. That's a tough question for me, dude. Best vocalist in black metal. I want to say somebody who's probably more diverse and capable in multiple ways than most, because my initial knee jerk is like, I've always had an affinity for like Dead from Mayhem, just because I've always liked the way that he does things. And Chance Garnett is not really a black metal vocalist. He's whatever you want to call a skeleton witch. I think he has some of the greatest vocals, but I'm probably going to go with Chance Garnett. He's technically not a proper cult black metal vocalist, but he does the black metal style. So I appreciate you, dude. All right, next. Dark Paladin in Frozen Night. Congrats on the subs. Will you be posting videos about the prog rock and psychedelic rock? I've definitely been requested to do so. Talk about all my stuff that's not metal. I will probably do that. I'm debating on whether doing straight all the way through or highlights from genres. I don't really know. I don't know how interested you guys would be in me going through all of it, because there is a lot. And it's going to get really dorky when it comes to the folk and bluegrass and country section. If that's interesting to you, put it in the comments. If I get like 2 people that say yes, I'll just do it. So I appreciate that as well. So I probably will. Next, Wyatt XM. What's up, Wyatt? Thanks for commenting. It says congrats on 2K. Appreciate you. My favorite drummer, Martin Axon, whatever, from Bloodbath, Opeth, probably. I think he's a very tasteful drummer. He knows when to be brutal. He knows when to not be annoying. And he knows how to really use his dynamic abilities and his like high skill level in the bands that he's in, being Opeth, Bloodbath, whatever other bands he's a part of. Those in particular, I think, are a real testament to how capable he really is. I also really like Austin Lund from Panopticon's drumming. Also very tasteful, very capable. That's a big thing for me. It's impressive and all when people can be, you know, George Kowalis or whatever that guy's last name actually is from Nile. Really impressive. Not as exciting to me as somebody who can really, I don't know, paint a picture with their drumming abilities, I guess you could say. Number 2 is a great album with terrible artwork. Oh man, that is a lot of them. There's a whole lot of them. I originally wanted to go through all these and write answers down premeditatively, and I just didn't because it was just too much. But one of the first things that I could really think of, it's probably some kind of random one-off black metal album that I think has a crap album cover. Man, it's tough. It's really tough. I'm looking at stuff. on here. It could be a classic thrash record. Like, I don't think any of the Testament album covers are all that cool. I don't know if I call them particularly terrible, but they're not particularly awesome either. Like the New Order's kind of cool. I guess they're not that bad. I don't know, man. It's tough. I definitely should have premeditated these a little bit more than I did. But for the sake of what I'm doing here, I'm just going to go with one of these guys, which is this one. This is a terrible album cover. Denim and Leather by Saxon. Super lame, but a great record nonetheless. Sorry for my cheapskate answer. And then great artwork on a terrible album. You know, I don't find that to be as common. Usually if bands put out the budget to get a really good album cover, they're not gonna suck quite like they could otherwise. There is one of them up here that I can't really think of. I'm looking, I know it's definitely in my section up here in this power metal. Here it is. This is one of them. Power Symphony with Evilot, you know, monsters and dragons and, you know, sword fighting, scantily clad women, I guess, which is a good aesthetic for it, but the album covers, or the album itself, is pretty boring, low budget Casio keyboard, melodic, symphonic power metal. Not the most exciting thing in the world. Also, this could use a much better album cover, which is Dan Swano's album Moon Tower. For the previous one of terrible artwork on a great album, I'm gonna go with Dan Swano's album here. But to answer both of those, there we are. Next, oh, I appreciate it, Wyatt. Next is Silly 54321. The first question is coolest band member you've met. See, when I'm thinking of that, I'm probably going to go with, like, Scott from Cyanide. Scott is great. He's like that uncle that gets a little too tipsy at every Thanksgiving, and you really just enjoy seeing him every time. That's kind of how I've always thought of him, or how I came to think of him after meeting him at Metal Threat. He would, like, talk to you like he's known you for 20 years, which is something I appreciate in a person. I think that is very cool. Number 2, what country do you think has the strongest black metal? That's tough, man. I want to say Sweden. Sweden's probably got the best all-around black metal. Obviously Norway. Every country seems to have all of the major scenes that you think of tend to have a really great scene. American black metal is obviously a lot more spread out just because it is enormous here. But I'd probably say Sweden. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. Number 3 is, do you like any of the black metal circles? Lost Legions, Noir, Blazebirth Hall, the Black Twilight Circle. I like stuff from all of those. I would probably say Blazebirth Hall would be the one that I probably listen to the most of that. Like bands like Forest, I think are cool. Temenzor, bands like that. The folky stuff. You know, the Russians really like the folky stuff. Black Twilight Circle, I haven't listened to a ton of. I've listened to some stuff like Arizmenda, bands like that. Not a ton of it, though. So I would say that is the one that I know the least amount of. But yeah. Number 4 is, what instruments do you think should be used in metal more often? So I tend to think that most bands would benefit from a synthesizer, depending on the style. Obviously, I wouldn't want a synthesizer in, like, you know, a Devourment album. I think that would sound really stupid. But like a doomy old school death metal band that puts like some synth in there, that's banging. I think people should employ the synth more often, especially with the new wave of traditional death metal that's kind of taken over the scene over the past couple of years. I think a lot of them could benefit from a little bit of synth action. But if I'm thinking like black metal, I think like a medieval instrument would be really, really cool, or something like a lyre, or I guess a modern equivalent being a mandolin. You could probably use a mandolin in a lot of that stuff, especially if a band like Falkenbach started using a mandolin more often. Something like that, I think it would benefit greatly. Or a bouzouki, which is an octave mandolin. It's very cool. It's like a baritone instrument. I have one over there. It's mostly an Irish instrument. It's tuned a little different. I tune it like a mandolin because I already know how to play one. So, yeah. And number 5 is, and because of the board is on Merciful Fate, what's your favorite Fate song? That's tough. Uh, my like knee jerk is Gypsy. I've always really liked that song. I've also really liked like Sleepless Nights and stuff like that. A lot of that later the '90s era has some really cool stuff. Like Into the Shadows, I think, is a great example of a band holding their own a little bit later into the 90s. Stuff like that. The scarier, the more horror kind of King Diamond influence Merciful Fate stuff seems to be really exciting. But yeah, so I'd probably say Gypsy or maybe Sleepless Nights. So I appreciate you. So next, Hammerheart Metal reviews. All right. Congrats on 2,000 subs, man. Very much deserves. Glad to see you back at it. I was wondering where you were. That Merciful Fate board is sick, man. I definitely wanted to take a stab at the contest. So here are my questions for a Q&A. Appreciate you, dude. Number one is, if you could only listen to 5 albums the rest of your life, what would be those albums? Impossible question, I know. So that's really tough. Like really tough. I would probably want something that's pretty diverse roster. I would say Townes Van Zant's self-titled album would be on there. Man, that's brutal, dude. I would probably say Pale Folklore by Agalloch. Orchid by Opeth, because that would kind of fill in some of the black metal tendencies as well as the proggy death metal and the melodic death metal moods that I get into, and the little bits of this, that, and the other. What else? I would probably say Jacob's Vision by the Stanley Brothers, which is a really traditional bluegrass record. Really top shelf stuff. And then, I don't know, I need something a little bit more regular heavy metal. Warlords Deliver Us. I think that's a solid one. That is just like spur of the moment. If I thought about it again in 15 seconds, it'd probably change. But I'm gonna move along until that happens. What is the best concert you've ever been to? Man, that's tough as well. That's real tough. Best one I've ever been to. I had a lot of fun at Metal Threat last year. That was a really good one. What else, man? I'm thinking of how many I've been to over the years, and it's just overwhelming to think about. Seeing the Black Dahlia murder with Napalm Death was a really fun time. That was a really fun time. I have some not so good stories of seeing some other bands, but I would say that was another one that I remember very well and had a very good time at. So I'd probably say it's one of those. Who's the most influential band for your younger years? Say when you were a teenager. So, like, I would probably say Sabbath, definitely, is the most influential band on me getting into this stuff. I heard Electric Funeral for the first time in a skateboarding part. D. Ostrander's Smut 3D part, if any of you guys are skateboarding nerds. That is the first time I ever heard Sabbath knowingly, apart from Iron Man and Paranoid and stuff on the radio, but Electric Funeral. And then after that, I just got into it. Judgment of the Dead by Pagan Altar and stuff like that all came out around, or all was in my collective mind at that same time, or Forever My Queen by Pentagram. I got really into the Doom stuff, and then me getting into heavier, more extreme stuff. Lost Society is one of the biggest ones. They have 2 really top shelf perfect albums, and then one pretty good record, and then after that they're no thank you. But yeah, I would probably say Sabbath and then Lost Society for a little bit later on. What is your favorite beer or brewery? The Varka Strong is my favorite. I tend to always like beers that are, I tend to like places that gravitate more towards the darker beers, places that have a lot more of an emphasis on less beers that you see everywhere. Everywhere is going to brew Mexican lager, everywhere is going to brew 500 different IPAs, but like, I'm thinking of like local breweries that I go to that I really do, every time I go to, I enjoy. That's tough. That's really tough. Yeah, man, I don't know exactly. I don't go to bars unless I'm like playing there, unless it's the one that I work at, which is where I'm at all the time. But I don't know. I would say come to the Runaway Micropub and Nano Brewery in Burlington, Wisconsin. That's the one I work at. That's my favorite brewery. And if you could construct a supergroup of your favorite musicians, who would be in it? Man, that is just incredibly brutal. So I'm gonna like not make an enormous 9-piece band or anything. I'm gonna put Axe from Opeth Bloodbath on drums. I'll have Chance Garnett do the vocals. I'll have Forrest LaPointe play the bass from Beyond Creation. And then the two guitar players. Who do I think are just absolute riffarama, dude? That's a tough one. Who are the guys that are gonna absolutely melt your face every time they pick up a guitar? That's rough. That's a brutal question, dude. I don't know. Can I do like 1997 Michael Ackerfeld on guitar and like clean singing maybe, or doing some backing vocals? And then, man, who else is just gonna write some killer riffs? Oh man, yeah, this is tough, dude. It's gonna be like a black metal-ish kind of really heady and over the top black metal band, death metal band, progressive metal band, somewhere in that general vicinity. Oh man. And who's going to be the other guitar player? I really should have premeditated these, shouldn't I have? I don't know. Garm from Ulver. Did he even play guitar? Maybe he was a bassist. I don't know. Garm from Ulver is going to be in there too. But yeah, that's my super group, and I think they would make some banging stuff. I'm not going to lie. So I appreciate you, dude. Next is Leona Luna, one of the longest supporters I've had here. She says, congrats on 2K, I appreciate you. She said, have you listened to My Dying Bride lately, and do you like their new album? I've probably listened to My Dying Bride in the past 6 months for sure, and I have not heard their new album. I just haven't listened to a lot of their new stuff in general, let alone anything new. But I really do like the first couple of records, especially, you know, the classic ones. So I do like them, but I don't know their new stuff. And do you have any favorite albums that isn't metal, country, or anything in that release to the that relates to the two genres? Yeah, I mean, I have an absolute load of stuff otherwise down here. I have a blues and jazz section, then I have a jam band section, a reggae section, a prog rock section, a regular hard rock section, then a jazz polka section. I have a Christmas section, a pop section, a world music section, a soundtrack section, and then a hip hop and rap section. So I like a lot of all the genres, but stuff that isn't any of that, I've kind of grown to like. I really like Jethro Tull a lot. I could probably say would be one of them. I really like Yes as well. Some really cool non-pertaining to those two genres bands. So I could probably say them. And favorite type of beer, I like anything from a Modelo from a gas station to a high quality brew at a fine establishment. Yeah, I like a lot of that stuff. Like I said, the Varka Strong. I really have grown a taste for Belgium's. That's been a big thing for me as of late, is Belgian beer. Anything pertaining to that style tends to be really good, like Trappist beers or these Delirium beers that I've been drinking. Really tasty. Next is Jeffrey Charist. He says, big congrats on the 2,000 plus subs. Here's to 2,000 more. My 5 questions below are, how many years have you been growing your hair and beard? Oh man. So I cut my hair short my freshman year of high school, barely off the head. Not a buzz cut, but a little boy haircut. And then since then I've just gotten a trim pretty much once a year. And so a couple of years. It's not as long as it could be otherwise. It's I don't know, this far from my belly button. So Where would that put me? I give it 10 years on the hair, and it's gotten trimmed a bunch. And the beard's been a couple of years. Again, I've trimmed this a million times. I have to trim my mustache as well, or else I wind up eating it, and it gets trimmed that way. So I try to avoid that as much as I possibly can. So my favorite instrument, I think the beard's been like 17, but again, trimming, 2017, trimming and all that kind of stuff. So, what else? Oh, favorite instrument. My favorite thing to play is probably the mandolin. I just enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. I get to play fast, and it tends to keep you busy. It's the only thing I've got hired to play as a session musician on somebody's record I didn't know. So I would probably say the mandolin. What international food do you eat the most? I would probably say I eat Mexican food the most out of everything. I really tend to love Mexican food just in general. I live in walking distance of 3 Mexican restaurants, which is mildly dangerous. But beyond that, my favorite non-American food, which is probably going to be Polish food, just because I grew up eating it all the time, and it's just something that I like to get. I just don't live close to anywhere that I could get real Polish food. The closest deli is Milwaukee, and that's 45 minutes, so that's a bit of a cruise. If you had to listen to only one subgenre, what would it be? Oh man, I would probably, like, as far as that goes, I would probably say, like, probably just be black metal, because you could get a lot out of it. You know, you could get a million different styles for it. I would definitely say it's got to be black metal. Now, if I'm allowed all the micro genres within said subgenre, we're probably in real good shape. Then, if you had to, do you have pets? And if so, what type? I have 2 cats. Yes, they're around here somewhere. Hon, can you hand me the cats? Yeah, so I have 2 cats. They're both absolute pains. I don't think she heard me. So yeah, one is a big old gray tabby cat, gray and black tabby cat, and the other one is a tuxedo, American short hair, I think it is, or domestic short hair, or whatever it is. They pop in on occasion. They used to a lot more when I sat on the floor and filmed videos, but not so much these days. Oh, here we go. We got cats incoming here. So the one I'm getting handed here is Kronos. He is the tabby cat. He's my buddy. He's a big old boy. Yeah, say hi to everybody. He's not very happy that he got bothered for this, but yeah, he's a good boy. And then this is the other one. This is Fauna. She is a little bit chunky, but she is an absolute sweetheart. Tabby cats and tuxedos get along very well because he's a little bit more reclusive, and she is a dog in small form. But yeah, that's all I have right now. I grew up with dogs, but now I have cats. I live in an apartment, so it's always good. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And next is Robert Sparling. He said, recently a guy named Johnny Z to the CD guy started a thread called 10 Essential Metal Albums, where you show off 10 metal albums from your collection that you think are essential. So it sounds like he would like me to do such a thing. And I might get around to it. I probably should. That sounds like a good video idea, actually. So I appreciate that greatly. What else we got? Josh Keach said, good to see you back, Tony. I'm glad to hear things are all right. Congrats on hitting 2,000. That's amazing. I'll have to see if I could think of any questions for you. If I forget or can't think, I'm sorry in advance. Either way, it's great you've hit 2,000, and I hope to see more videos soon. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Next, my man Goatman. Glad to see you back. We need to catch up. Yeah, dude, I'll send you a message sometime soon. As for my questions, what's your favorite traditional metal album of the year so far? So like I said earlier, I have yet to listen to like any new albums in the metal genre whatsoever. So I can't really say that with any good certainty. But the traditional metal album that I've liked the most as of lately, that I recently found this year, would be Sacred Warriors Masters Command album from '89. They're Chicago kind of progressive, traditional metal, power metal, somewhere in that general vicinity, kind of more on the Hellstar side of things, Queensryche side of things. So that kind of barely doesn't particularly count as trad metal, but you get my point. Very good album. If you haven't heard it, I would highly recommend it. I've also I got into Barren Cross over the past 2 months. I just found 2 LPs in a store and wanted to listen to them before I dropped the cash on them because they're both kind of expensive. But both of those are kind of the trad metal albums of the year, so to speak, because they're the 2 that I've found recently this year. What's my favorite vinyl color? As far as straight single tones go, I would say it's like crystal clear. I absolutely love the look of a super crystal clear vinyl. Other than that, I really like swirls. I also really like straight white vinyl. I think that's a very classy look. But yeah, I would say it's one of those, but probably straight like crystal clear, which is not something you find all the time. And what's the most obscure classic traditional heavy metal band you know of that you can recommend? I got you on obscure, dude. Hang on, let me pick it up. This one here is Canker, with the self-titled Canker. This is copyright 2002 on a Dynamic Vampire, and it is a random weird one-off thing I picked up at Goodwill, and I showed this in something, and somebody hit me up on Instagram about it because they were like, I don't know anything about it, but they wanted me to send them pictures of all this and that kind of stuff, and all the pictures on the Metal Archives for Canker are of my CD, which is kind of awesome. So that's super, super obscure. Now, whether or not you can actually find any of this online is a whole nother story, man. But nonetheless, that's a banging one. Yeah, I would probably say that that's one of my most obscure random picks that I could think of off the top of my head. I'm looking around a lot because I have to think of this stuff on the fly because I'm apparently not smart enough to premeditate. But whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna call it that. And then what was the other one? Oh yeah, that's 3. So I appreciate you, dude. I'll hit you up soon. No Way Out 417 asks, okay, really old metalhead here. How about some black metal? Ancient Rites, Schädebergen. I don't know that band, but I do know Ancient Rites, a progressive. Opeth is one of my favorite bands that was mentioned in the comment. Absolutely love. We've actually been listening to Still Life in the background this whole time. I needed something long. I also like some of the melodic stuff. Don't know a ton of Epica that's mentioned in here as well. I do like Nightwish, which is Epica-ish, adjacent-wise as far as that goes. So I would call that. And then classic Cradle of Filth, fan. Definitely fan. I have some of the old school Cradle stuff here. I recently picked up Vampires and Dark and Fairy Tales. Over the past couple of months I picked that up. So yeah, classic, Cradle, good stuff. All right, appreciate you. We got the winner here, Roger. Congrats, Tony. Good to see you back in action. Cool prize for the giveaway. Cheers. Since you have been away for so long, here are some questions for you. How do you like the new Kerry King stuff, or KK Slayer, as I like to call them? I heard like a song from it, and it was fine. It really wasn't anything crazy as far as I could recollect, but I really only really heard it in a second. And he said, how about that awful Deicide cover? I don't know what you're referencing there, but I might have to figure that out, because I bet it's something funny if I'm thinking about like when they played Smoke on the Water. Best album so far this year. Again, but like I said earlier, I haven't really listened to any metal records this year that are new from this year, which is me just dropping the ball entirely. But like I said, probably the new Dead South album is really the only brand new album that I've really listened to all much this year. Colored vinyl or black? It really depends on the context. I tend to prefer colored vinyl just because I like the novelty of it. But black vinyl I think fits better on something like a raw black metal or something like that. You know, you got like your classic black metal albums. I think that fits better on black. And he says, do you think physical sales will drop significant with the high prices, and have that affected your changes in your buying? Yeah, I think I would be a lot more of a vinyl guy if I didn't have to pay 25 to 30 bucks for every LP. Part of the reason I've always been a CD guy is like when I started, I was in high school just working a part-time job, and I'd spend all my money on CDs and just like skip lunch. So I would just try to get quantity for what I could afford. And so I'd pay $6 for a CD or $20 for one LP, so I could get 3 CDs or 1 LP. So that's kind of where my mind went with that, and I think it will definitely make it worse. It will worsen the physical sales thing. For a lot of people, they'll buy less quantity and they'll buy 1 or 2 things as opposed to a stack at a record store. At least that's me. If I'm hitting used bins, I can buy a stack, but if I'm buying new, just a couple of things. So yeah, it's definitely affected me, and I would imagine I'm not an outlier as far as that goes. So I appreciate you, Roger. I'll hit you up soon. Norwegian Black Calls. He says, congrats on the subs, man. Hopefully the next 2K will come fast. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you. If you haven't watched his channel, he knows his stuff. That's for sure, dude. Who is the worst corpse paint? Dude, that guy from Cold has the worst corpse paint ever. Hang on. I have to get it. Let me grab this. This. No, that's just, that ain't it. Don't do that. They also have an awful logo. Yeah, that is probably the worst corpse paint in black metal. I just right away could pull that one out. That's unquestionable. Album you regret buying. You know, I've definitely had a handful of those over the years. I really think I picked up an album by The Haunted a couple of years ago, or a couple months ago. I think it's called Revolver. It wasn't even worth the $4 I paid for it out of the used bin. That band is not good. The Haunted are not good. Most raw album in your collection you can think of. I don't know, man. Crypthal from Mexico is probably one of the first one that comes to my mind. Yeah, I would probably say Crypthal from Mexico. That was probably way too much of my head. Yeah, that's a really stupid angle. Sorry. But yeah, Crypthal is definitely one of them, or Emotion Spell, or whatever that is, that band that's out on, I think it's on Dark Adversary. Those are the more raw things that I have. I don't listen to as much of that raw stuff as I used to, but I would probably put those as to some of the higher up there ones. I'd probably say that's more raw than the LLN stuff. Fest in Europe you would like to visit. Yeah, man, I'd like to go to a lot of those. I think Graspop would be a lot of fun. Or like I said earlier, that one in Brutal Assault would be really cool. There's a fest in Slovakia that's like in the mountains. I don't remember exactly what it is called, but I saw some guy make a video about being there. That sounds like a good time. I would absolutely love to go to that festival in Slovakia that's like a camping one in the mountains. And he says, Varg, Lois Christian, or Count Grishnak, or Louis. I like to call him Louis because it's way funnier, and he's made a real meme out of himself over the past several years. So, yeah, Louis. Next is Doc and Sabbath. He says, nice to see you back. I appreciate you, dude. I'm glad to be back. Sorry, I'm messing with this tab when I'm doing stuff on. And he says, do you plan to acquire more glam and AOR? Yes, I do. Gladly. I was actually, speaking of AOR, I was listening to Van Halen earlier this week, which is out of the ordinary for me, but I just like that kind of stuff. The cheesy cornball, I have that and Night Ranger in my car currently. Just, I don't know. Sometimes you get in weird moods. I have some Danger right above my head, and I have the whole hair metal glam AOR section right there. I feel like they're all like one crew. Above a Motley Persuasion, maybe. What's your favorite obscure trad metal album of the 80s? That's tough. I really like Dragain, something like that. Well, hang on. Oh, it's right behind my head. I'm stupid. This is not as obscure, I think, as it once was, but it's gotten reissued. This is on Dragon Swings by Dragon. Really, really great. 1988. Kind of traditional metal, speed metal to an extent. This is a No Remorse reissue. Not the easiest thing to get a hold of in the States here, but I think this is one of my favorites. I just really, really like this one. It is great. I really like the Griffin material too. The first two Griffin albums are must-owns as far as I am concerned. I'd probably say those two. Pretty good. I tend to like, I guess, a little bit more of the speedier side of the trad metal section. But I do get in the mood for a little bit lighter stuff, i.e. Riot and Saxon, things like that. Really, really great. Any guilty pleasures in other genres? Oh, dude, I like way too much stuff. But yes, I have some very guilty pleasures down here. So I grew up as like a Disney kid. So I have like some absolutely irredeemable garbage sitting in my section right there. It's like I have like the High School Musical soundtrack down there. I know, don't even come at me. I'm in my mid-20s, man. I can get a break for that, right? But yeah, that's some of the rough stuff that I have. Do you prefer vinyl or CDs? Definitely CDs. I think vinyl is really, really cool and all. Just a cheapskate. I don't know what else I could really boil it down to other than that. And it's just inconvenient to an extent sometimes. Like, I could bring the CDs in my car. I can't put the record on in the car. Although, my buddy and I did one time put a record player on his dash and try to drive like that, and it didn't work very well. So don't do that. But yeah, I appreciate you, dude. Next, Jeff1223. I'm glad you're back, bro. Happy to hear you're doing all right, and congrats on 2000. You deserve it. Also, I don't really care for what you're giving away, but here are some questions anyway. Well, I appreciate you anyway, dude. Thank you. What is your favorite record of 2023? What was my favorite record of 2023? I honestly don't remember because I never made a proper list. What's up with that? I don't really know. I just didn't listen to a ton last year, and this year's only gotten worse. So I can't really give you a good answer on that. So I apologize for that. But number two is, what is the first band that got you into metal? So I would probably like have to say Metallica, just as like a child, or Slipknot, one of those kind of bands. My brothers got me into that kind of stuff. I vividly remember listening to Metallica and Slayer and White Zombie and things like that with my brothers when I was like a really, really, really little kid. And then like hearing Cannibal Corpse for the first time at like 8 years old on Comcast On Demand. I remember watching the Evisceration Plague music video in my grandma's living room, and Behemoth's Slave Shall Serve music video in my grandma's living room. All that kind of crazy stuff, just because I wanted to see the wildest stuff that I could find. That's the kind of stuff that got me into it. But Sabbath really, really like was like, all right, this is where I need to be. And then number three is, what is your favorite classic rock band and album? I don't know, man. That's hard. So, like, I kind of mixed some of the heavier classic rock into the proto-metal section, saying stuff like things that would equate into metal, bands that would really influence the first wave of metal, say, like Thin Lizzy and Kiss and Zeppelin and UFO, things like that. I would probably say something like that, but if I'm just like thinking of a singular one-off classic rock band, maybe The Band or the Marshall Tucker Band. They're just kind of bands that have gotten lumped into classic rock, which kind of are, but kind of aren't. They're kind of, I'm going to call those classic rock bands. I would say it's either the Marshall Tucker Band or The Band. Really, really great. So I appreciate you. And then this last one here is a very funny troll, but I'm not going to read those because I don't think it needs to happen. But if you care to, his name is Beavis Nads on this video's comments. Just go watch it or go read it. It's actually really, really funny, but I'm not going to answer them just because I don't need to. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys again. Rugger, I'll hit you up. Thank you so much. Keep it greasy.